Welcome, everybody, and I appreciate you all taking some time this afternoon to join us. We are here to discuss preventing eviction and foreclosures in our community, housing security when needed most. And I just want to thank our partners in this. We are joined by the cities, or worked with the cities, all of the cities throughout the community, as well as a number of our nonprofits in this space. The Shelter House Affordable Housing Coalition, Iowa City Area Realtors Association as well. Tyler and his team were extremely helpful in getting this information out. And then the Housing Trust also, and a number of others. So appreciate all the folks that have joined us to bring this information to the group. And we're looking forward to a lively discussion. We've got a great lineup today. We have Heather Harney with HACAP, who's going to talk a little bit about the Iowa Eviction Foreclosure Prevention Program. Then we will transition to Rachel Lehmann, who will talk about the coordinated entry, and she's with Shelter House, and at-risk homeless and housing insecurity. And then we will wrap up with Tracy Heitschuh, and she'll talk about the Iowa City sponsored programs. From there, we'll have an open Q&A, and we will follow up with some survey information. One of the ultimate goals here is to just engage you guys as counterparts in this. We realize the importance of housing in our community, and for people that have homes to be secure in those homes, and the efforts that we need and the resources that are available to you as landlords and owners to ensure that we can make that happen. So we are hopeful that this is one of many conversations going forward, and we welcome your input and feedback here today. So with that, I would like to turn the floor over to Heather Harney. And Heather will talk a little bit about the Eviction Foreclosure Prevention Program. So the floor is yours, Heather.
Thank you, Tom. Yeah, my name is Heather Harney, and I'm the Housing Director here at HACAP. HACAP is a nonprofit that we do a lot of assistance for low-income individuals, but we also are a landlord to about 42 properties in the city of Iowa City, and also in the city of Cedar Rapids. So we know the struggles that both landlords and the tenants are going through right now at the same time. So the Iowa Finance Authority in late May issued what is called the Eviction Prevention and Foreclosure Program, also known as EFP, if you hear it referred to as that. And for any tenant who qualifies under a certain income restrictions, and all of this is online, they will pay up to 4 months of rent, up to $3,200. So tenants have to be able to prove a loss of income due to COVID, and they also have to qualify under, I think it's 80% of area median income, which is on the website. The website for this is iowahousingrecovery.com, and it will link you to that program. What so far to date, over $18 million in the state in Iowa has gone out to Iowa landlords to help pay for tenants who are behind on rent. In Johnson County specifically, they've helped 1,088 households, rental households, and $2.7 million has gone to landlords just in Johnson County alone. Landlords will receive an email from IFA saying that a tenant of theirs has applied. In order for the money to go out, we do need landlords to be able to fill out this form. It has to be done all online, and you have to verify how much behind on rent they are, what months it is that you actually have a lease with this tenant, and provide a PDF of a W-9. All payments are being done through direct deposit. They will not issue checks. It has to be done through direct deposit. And once all information is verified, direct deposit should be seen within 48 hours from the Iowa Finance Authority to the account that you give them. I would say a lot of tenants sometimes don't know their landlord's email addresses, or they don't know their phone number and are providing incorrect information. So if you want to do some sort of notification to your tenants that the program is available, I would definitely let them know what email address and what phone number you should be able, that they could use in order to apply, so you know that you're getting the information when a tenant applies. That has been a little bit of a struggle sometimes. So I would make sure your tenants know your correct email address and phone number in order for the application to be valid. HACAP is helping process these applications. So you may get a phone call from somebody on our staff asking some clarifying questions or saying, hey, we got an application from one of your tenants, but they didn't provide the right email address. What email address do you want us to send this to? Because we can resend that information out to you that you may need to fill out. The program is scheduled to go through December and end in December. We have not heard any other information at this point on if that will get extended. So right now, tenants can get rental assistance through December. So if you have a tenant who is behind 2 months on rent and hasn't paid September, so there's September and October, they could also ask for November and December going forward. You get that payment all at one time. So that is kind of that program overview. They have set aside, initially they set aside, the state set aside, I would say $20 million. To date, they've almost spent 19, but they are willing to go above the initial 20 million allocation. So the program, again, I said, will go through December, no matter how much money at this point that they have spent. And we'll kind of go through the rest of the presentation and we'll kind of open up for questions afterwards. So thank you.
Thank you, Heather. And yes, to her point, we'll hold questions. You can shoot them directly to me and we'll ask them at the end. And so at this point, I'd like to transition the floor and screen to Rachel with Shelter House.
Great, thanks so much. Yeah, I'm Rachel Lehmann, Rapid Rehousing Program Manager with Shelter House. I know a few of you on the call. We've had the opportunity to work with many landlords in this community. I'm wearing a little bit of a different hat today, and what I want to talk about with you all is a new system for getting assistance to folks locally after or if they are not eligible for that state level assistance, and how that actually will directly translate to being able to keep tenants in your units. And then, you know, fortunately be able to maintain financially. So I'm just gonna share my screen here for just a moment. Okay, can you see that okay? Okay, great. So I'm not going to get into super intricate details about how a coordinated entry works, but what I want to describe to you all is previously in our community, there are many organizations that are able to help tenants pay their rent, right? So we had Johnson County General Assistance, we've had Community, you know, formerly Crisis Center could sometimes help tenants. But if you notice on the left side of this infographic, we have this triangle of different entry points and different ways that people would try and get help to be able to pay their rent. That causes a lot of work. It causes a lot of confusion for folks and ultimately slows down the process of landlords being able to receive payment from entities who are able to support tenants who are going through a rough time, just in general pre-COVID. But now, more specifically due to COVID, what we are seeing is there are folks who are really struggling to pay rent who really didn't have that problem before. So what coordinated entry has done is basically funnels anybody who is needing financial assistance for rent to one place. And I'll kind of go through the step-by-step process of how that works for tenants so you can share that information. That way we can get payments out as quickly as possible if people are eligible. But if you look at the right graphic here, it funnels everyone into a place of assessment. So they'll give us a call. We'll talk about kind of everything that's going on, and coordinated entry has access to nearly every rental assistance program in our community. Not all, and I'll kind of go through with you which programs are accessible for it. But what I love so much about this is it really gets down to the kind of what does this person need? What is the maximum level of assistance that they can obtain, and which program is the best one for them? This takes out a lot of work. It takes out a lot of time for that tenant to have to try and seek down that help. And really what that will translate to is, should they be deemed eligible, much quicker payments to landlords and property managers. I think the goal of this group and our presentation today is really, as we were saying, we are better in this together, right? We have all of this local funding and state funding and federal funding that we want to be able to get to landlords to help people stay in their homes, to then protect them further from COVID-19. So how does a tenant, how does a tenant go about trying to seek this assistance? I know it's kind of small. I'm going to send this flyer out to you all after we've completed the program today. But basically it's just a phone call. So you call 351-0326. Coordinated entry specialist will talk with that individual, find out all of the information, including things that Heather had discussed earlier. So what's their income, you know, that way we can direct them to the appropriate program. Kind of assess their vulnerability. Maybe they are having larger struggles in their life and we are able to provide them longer term assistance that they may be eligible for. And then after those assessments are done, it may take about 30 minutes, 20 to 30 minutes for them to do that. They're referred to the appropriate program that will hopefully be able to meet their needs. Now, there are certainly eligibility requirements and specifics that are out of the control of the provider. So we have to meet certain obligations based upon income, the kind of unit somebody lives in, but we can do all of those things relatively quickly because of this coordinated entry system. So then typically they'll work with that community provider, and then you will eventually hear as a landlord property manager from that community provider that this person is eligible and kind of what the next steps are for that. If you look down at the bottom of this flyer, you can see all of the entities that participate in coordinated entry in one way or another. Most of these have financial assistance available to individuals in the community. A lot of that is ongoing that we've had before, but a lot of that that pot of money at this point is due to the CARES Act. So we've received additional funding in our community to prevent people from losing their homes. And so what we are wanting to do, particularly today, is really open up that line of communication with property owners and landlords in our community to be able to make sure that we can get that money to you. Because we know if you are able to keep someone in their housing, you are able to pay your bills, they're able to stay safe and retain some level of stability in this crazy year that is 2020. So the other thing I want to share about this process, we do have interpreters available. We use a interpreter hotline. So if you have non-English speaking tenants, we are able to get them connected to the appropriate program. And if there are folks who don't have access to technology, if they don't have a phone, they can certainly stop out at 424 Southgate and we can make arrangements to make sure that they are served. Lastly, you know, I think I just want to hone in on the fact that when we were talking about kind of the pot of money available for individuals in our community, the state set aside $20 million. That money has been, fortunately, been used pretty regularly. The pot of money in our community right now is over $1 million, I would say, between various agencies to prevent people from having to be asked to leave their home. So my request or wonder is if you are serving a 3-day notice to someone, you are a landlord and you are serving a 3-day notice to someone for non-payment of rent, or if you are going to the courthouse to file, if you would be willing to provide them this contact information or this flyer or the phone number, we might be able to move relatively quickly to help them stay in their home. So that would be my hope. That way you all can keep your units filled and we can keep people safe. So that's all I have for now. My contact information is here. I'll be sure to include that with the flyer, which I think Tom's going to send out. So I think, yeah, thank you very much.
Yes, thank you, Rachel. And that is correct. We will follow up with all of this information, including some additional reports to some links and additional data that has been shared by various resources here. And so we will transition from Rachel now to Tracy Heitschuh with the City of Iowa City to talk a little bit about the programs and services that are available there. So.
Oh, thanks everyone for joining us today. I'm Tracy Heitschuh. I'm the Neighborhood and Development Services Director at the City of Iowa City. And I wanted to share a screen with you. I presented this to our City Council back in July. And from that time, I think I have had to update every single line item as programs change. Is everybody seeing a screen that says COVID-19 resources? All right, great. So I wanted to emphasize what Rachel was saying. There are so many programs out there that are helping people right now, whether you live in the City of Iowa City, you're in Johnson County, the programs change, their application dates change, the benefits change. So the best thing that you can do is get people into that coordinated entry system. Both Community Crisis Services and Shelter House are coordinated entry. We're working with a lot of funds going through those entities to assist people. So get them there. If they're not eligible, I'm going to go through this briefly, but if you've ever worked with the federal government, you see like typically the amount of requirements and documentation you have to provide for federal funds is greater. And then as you keep going down to the state and local level, those requirements can sometimes be modified. We can look at special situations. So just remember, when you're looking at federal funds, you're looking at the most restrictive. You have to provide the most documentation, and then you go from there. So what we've done with the City of Iowa City funds, we've allocated funds out of our general fund. We've also gotten funds in through the CARES Act. What we're telling people is, first, if you need rental assistance and you need utility assistance, go to the state. Go through the Iowa Finance Authority. They have millions available. We do not. At the local level, we're never going to match resources. So we are trying to expand the resources that are available to our families and our residents in the city. So we're going to tell you, if you haven't applied, go to IFA's website, the program that Heather talked about. You have to apply through the Iowa Finance Authority, but locally, HACAP is administering that money. So that application goes to them to process. The state recently notified that there's now a utility assistance program through Iowa Finance Authority. I don't know how much money they've awarded to the program, but their deadline to apply is now to November 20th, and people can get up to $2,000 for utility assistance from that March to October timeframe. So we've told our providers that are getting direct city funds to hold off on utilities. You know, the City of Iowa City is not shutting off water right now, so you have some time, at least at the city level. So we're telling folks, go to IFA, apply for rent utilities. If you're not eligible, if your assistance ends, then we're asking you to get through that coordinated entry system. So contact Community Crisis Services. Right now, they're allocating our first allocation of CARES funding for $246,000. We're paying up to $4,800 for up to 6 months of rent. So we're doing that. When those funds expire, we'll probably enter a contract with Shelter House for that $390,000. So that's our first contact. They're federal funds. There's a lot of documentation required. I think someone asked, how do you prove you're COVID impacted? We're getting all these CARES funds because people are financially impacted by COVID. That means you've lost a job, you've had reduced hours, you've had to stay home to take care of your kids because they're not in school, so you're not able to work. There's a lot of things, or you you're sick yourself. So we have to look at that, and with the federal funds, you have to document that. So that's what Community is working on. They're working on that documentation, but once you get into our system, you just have to self-certify it in subsequent months that you're in the same financial situation. So a lot of document at the beginning, then not so much towards the end. If you can't document or you're not federally eligible, that's when they're making that referral over to Shelter House to assist. So that's what's getting into that coordinated entry, because these are the folks that know what benefits are available. They know if you qualify or not. They know what referrals they need to make. And then we did contract with Center for Worker Justice to provide some emergency payments. We're finding that a lot of immigrants and refugees are not eligible for some of the funds due to they're not eligible for unemployment benefits or stimulus funds. So they're doing a one-time payment. I think they allow 2 payments in a 12-month period for things like rent, utilities, childcare, healthcare, basic necessities. So we've entered a contract with them as well. Our standard flyer is the one that you see right now. It's going to tell you, go to the IFA, gives you the information, and then it gives you the income limits. And those are for all of Johnson County. So if your family's below those income thresholds based on size of households, those are what we're looking at, both with IFA's programs and our programs. And then that's all I have today. I just want to stress that coordinated entry system. And I think it's great that you're joining us to basically not only, make sure you get rent paid so you can maintain it and provide it, but for also those tenants to stay housed. So thank you for your efforts in joining us today.
Thank you, Tracy. And I just want to echo that sentiment. We really would love your assistance and partnership as landlords and property owners and property managers in helping us get this information out and keep people in their homes. We have a few questions that have come through. And so I know one of them was just how do you prove that you lost your job for COVID? Are university cuts related to COVID? I believe you touched on that a little bit, Tracy. Is there anything to add to that from the rest of the group or thoughts you'd like to add, Rachel or Heather?
Yeah, for the large IFA program that I was speaking about, they do have individuals, there's, the tenant has to check a certain amount of boxes. One of them is certifying that they lost income due to COVID. And then part of the application process requires them to submit a pay stub prior to their income loss and then a pay stub after March showing their loss of income. And that's something we look at application. So there is some requirements to show that happened. If somebody lost their job entirely and you don't have a last pay stub, sometimes we ask for something from the employer stating that. So that is on the tenant side to obtain that documentation. And if a tenant submits documentation that isn't sufficient, our job in processing the applications is to contact them and to ask them for better documentation to make sure they meet the eligibility requirements. But they do have to show a loss of income during that application process.
Thank you, Heather. Rachel, anything to add to that?
No, I don't think so. I think really just showing that loss of income is the biggest portion for us in terms of being able to determine someone's eligibility. So whether that is, a pay stub before, for some programs, we can actually self-certify. So if they don't have documentation because they're unable to obtain it, we can get creative and try and figure out different ways to be able to document that process.
Excellent. And while we have you on the mic, one question around coordinated entry, does that service also Tiffin and Coralville and some of the surrounding communities? Can you walk through that a little bit?
Yes, absolutely. So it actually serves, depending on the program, Johnson and Washington County. So yes, Tiffin, anywhere in Johnson, Washington County, we are able to serve.
Excellent, thank you. And there was another question around similar programs to what you talked about, Tracy, with regard to Coralville. Any commentary on those that have properties in Coralville or outside of the Iowa City proper area, what their best approach would be?
Do you want me to go,
If
Tracy?
you've got an answer, yeah.
Okay.
If Tracy or others have any insight, feel free to.
Yeah, I mean, I just want to, first of all, say thanks to the City of Iowa City for setting aside those funds. That's been very useful. Anybody outside of City of Iowa City, there may be other programs that they could be eligible for. One is an emergency solutions grant. That's through HUD. So that funding has been targeted for folks kind of outside of Iowa City, since there's less funding opportunities available for them. But there is an option depending on eligibility, yes. So they would just call that coordinated entry number to see which things they might be eligible for.
Excellent, thank you.
Hi, this is Ellen from Coralville.
Hi, Ellen.
Hi, that's a good question. And unfortunately, since we're not an entitlement city, we don't have access to the CDBG funds, but it's correct that landlords and tenants in Coralville and in the other areas that aren't Iowa City, they can apply for those state and other funding sources.
Great, thank you. Any other questions from our group, from our participant audience? Well, I'm going to add into the chat right now a link to a very short survey, really one that we just want to glean some quick information from you guys to better understand the current state of things in your world, and really start to, as we move forward, identify the best way to stay in communication with you, as well as address issues that are priorities or important to you going forward. I know one of the other goals of this call was to start to identify some of those other topical areas that are important to you as developers, landlords, property managers in the area. So whether it be right here through this chat or through our survey, please take a few minutes. Like I said, there's maybe 12 questions on this survey, and they're pretty straightforward. But we really would love to engage you guys more intentionally going forward and host more of these types of environment or discussions so that we can start to build that dialogue. We realize that, as Rachel had shared earlier, we are all in this together. And so the more that we can work together collectively and collaboratively to create win-win situations for all of us involved, I think that's the interest of everybody here. So we're in unique times, and it's going to take a lot of creativity and a willingness of everyone involved and some positive intent to be assumed as we go into this, but I'm pleasantly surprised and pretty happy with everything thus far as some of the early data, and I'll share some additional resources with you guys in our follow-up note. But some of the early data suggests that we are fighting well above our weight class as it relates to dollars claimed. And so Heather shared some of that data, but we're about 5% of Iowa's total population, and we've been able to take advantage of roughly 15 to 16% of the dollars. So the folks on this call and a number of others in the area are working hard for our residents, and so I just want to applaud their efforts, and let's continue to support them and have some open dialogue going forward. So appreciate you all making and taking some time. We will follow up with all the additional information, and this will be recorded, so share that with others, and we'll have a link to that recording. Any final comments from any of our speakers today, Tracy, Heather, or Rachel?
I would like to say, as you know, we have the pandemic, we had El Derecho. As we go, the city is trying to push information out that helps our residents to the extent possible. So it'd be nice, whether you're with the home builders or the Iowa City Area Association Realtors or whatever group you're with, how can we best get this information, this timely information out to your listservs or to you? How do you want us to reach you? I'm hoping for 2020, this is it for disasters.
Knock on some wood. Everybody knock on your desk just real quick.
As we go, if you could start thinking about with your own associations, what information do you want, and how do you want us to get that to you on a timely basis? So you don't have to, in this forum, you don't have to, but if that's part of the survey that Tom's sending out, we would love to hear that.
It is, Tracy. Thank you. Rachel or Heather?
I don't think I have anything too much more to add. I just, as we're listening to everyone speak, I want to reiterate that as landlords, you are the first to know whether someone is facing eviction. And so sometimes by the time they get to us, right, we may be running short on time to be able to keep them in their home. So I think the sooner that we can provide information and knowledge, and kind of piggybacking off what Tracy said, if there's additional ways you think that we could get that information to your tenants, even maybe before the 3-day notice or that eviction notice, we would be interested in hearing kind of what forum that might be best received. We do the best we can, but we don't know everything. So you know far more about your tenants than we do. So just wanted to add that.
Thank you, Rachel.
Yeah, and I would just also add, as a landlord, we've also had our tenants apply for the assistance and have gotten assistance through the state program. And we've also tried to have our tenants apply who we know are behind on rent. And sometimes it can be a struggle for them to take that initiative because it does need to start with them. So if you have tenants that you're trying to have apply and they just haven't gone through the process, they can call the coordinated entry number. We have some people in the community that are willing to assist people if they don't know how to do the application or don't have access to the internet, that sort of thing. So if you are coming across that problem, please just reach out, have them reach out to Shelter House or community and they can help with that process as well.
Thank you, Heather. And just one thing to note, this summit, this discussion was a collaborative effort as part of our Better Together group. And I just want to thank everybody again. And the number one goal of this particular initiative around housing and homelessness was that no one loses their housing in the Johnson County area to do it to COVID-19. And so we all play a role in that. And I just want to thank those of you that took the time today to participate in whatever capacity, as well as just share this out and continue to work towards that number one objective, just no one losing their housing due to COVID-19 here in Johnson County. I think we can all say that there's a win-win for everybody here with that. So thanks again, guys. More to come. Please do not hesitate to reach out to anyone on our team or the folks that have spoken today. Everybody's here to help, and I appreciate your willingness to do so. So enjoy the afternoon and look for more from us going forward. Thanks, guys.